Hey guys, Sherm here, and today I'm going to be showing you the McLaren GT at Golden Max in Classic Season Multiplayer. As my McLaren GT is only 1 star, SkipperReu of the Purple Team Discord has given me some of his races in Gold League to see how this car does against B-Class cars, and it actually turned out to be more competitive than you might initially expect. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and be sure to check out my Furum Clips channel as well as the Purple Team Discord, which I will link in the description along with Skipper's channel. And I hope you enjoyed these races. So the McLaren GT is one of the new best cars in Class C, and that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to make another video about it. I'd already made a video about this car at Golden Max in its own multiplayer season, but given that this is overall the most useful car in the update, I figured it should get another video. In terms of stats and just general overall performance, the McLaren GT is most similar to the Lamborghini Gallardo. It has better acceleration by about 3 points, which is fairly substantial in C-Class, but its other stats are slightly worse than those of the Gallardo. This means a couple of things. First of all, the GT and the Gallardo have very similar overall performance and lap times on a lot of tracks. Red Racer X recently made a video comparing the two on 1000 Minarets, where they just about tied, and then on Caribbean, the Gallardo won by just a small amount, but they were super close in both cases. I still consider the Gallardo to be ever so slightly better overall, but the McLaren GT is like 99% as good. Now, so far, I've been speaking purely about lap times for events and things like that. Multiplayer is slightly different, because multiplayer definitely favors acceleration a bit more than events do. You want to try to get ahead of people in the beginning, so you don't have as much of a worry of getting knocked down and stuff like that, and so just in general, acceleration is more important in multiplayer than elsewhere. And that is precisely what the GT has going for it over the Gallardo. So I would say that the GT might be slightly better in multiplayer than the Gallardo is, but again, they're super close. The GT only goes maybe a couple miles per hour slower than the Gallardo, around 220 miles per hour. This means, though, that in B-Class, or Gold League, I guess I should say, it is still fairly competitive, especially if you get a lot of the slower B-Class cars that people like to take, such as the Corvette Grand Sport, for example. The McLaren GT is faster than that car. It's also faster than, say, the GT12. Now, the Corvette Grand Sport also has an acceleration of around 77, which is also lower than the McLaren GT's 80. This means that the McLaren GT can get ahead of Corvettes in the beginning, and as long as you don't have sections of track that are extremely twisty where the Corvette can catch up due to its better handling, the GT is going to be able to stay ahead for most of the race, and you can beat a whole lot of Corvettes in the GT a lot of the time. Now, the Huracan Evo Spider is a little bit of a different issue. You see, that car is ever so slightly faster than the GT, and it starts up faster too. As you can see here, he got first, and so there was no way for the GT to catch up to him throughout the race. But again, it's not like a huge difference, so if the Huracan were to have made a mistake, the GT could have definitely caught up. Now, back to what I was saying about facing Corvettes on twisty tracks. The GT's drifting is very good overall, but it isn't quite as good as that of the Gallardo or the Corvette Grand Sport for that matter. So on super tight turns, you might find yourself hitting the sides, but on most turns, you will be perfectly fine. It's definitely better than average overall, I would say. Also, one thing to note is that the Gallardo has several miles per hour higher of a drifting speed than the McLaren GT, and the Nitro is ever so slightly longer. But again, all of these differences are relatively minimal, and you could probably use the Gallardo and the GT relatively interchangeably on most tracks in the game and get very similar lap times and performance overall out of them. And in multiplayer, it looks like the GT can hold its own a lot of the time. That acceleration has certainly come in key. Now, I don't know if this is a psychological thing or not, but I always just feel better, and it feels like I am more likely to win if my car has better acceleration in the beginning, even if there's other people who have quite a bit faster speed than me in the race. And this past race seems to be a pretty good example of that. Skipper beat a Hoyer BC and a LaFerrari Aperta, both of which have quite a bit better top speed than this car, but then coming in first place was the 911 GT3 RS. It has a similar top speed to the GT, but quite a bit better acceleration. The 911 GT3 RS is one of the fastest accelerating cars in the whole game. Now, I'm sure some of you have begun to see videos about the new Looper Prix popping up on Asphalt channels. That is a version of the Grand Prix where your previous Ghost has Slipstream. And so what you can do is ride your Ghost Slipstream and then just keep doing that over and over again to get better and better times until eventually, hopefully you can just stay in Nitro throughout the entire race. And at that point, there's not really much more you can do to go faster. It seems like a good bit of fun. They released it this week for creators to make videos about, and I believe they will be releasing the full one this coming week. Don't quote me on that though, but I believe that's what I heard. I'll be making a video about that as soon as I can as well. However, after the update yesterday, for some reason, my game has been unable to connect to the servers. There's an error 4-1, which I've been getting, which is about like being unable to connect to a stable server. Gameloft said that they were working on that. I know there is a patch where you can pretty much just reinstall the game, but I try to avoid doing that if possible. So if anyone has figured out any other ways to solve this issue, or if you have it, let me know down in the comments below. I'd be curious to know what you did about it. But Gameloft has said that they're working on a hotfix, which hopefully will be available soon, and so if you don't want to do anything like that, you can probably just wait a few days and likely it'll be patched. I also wanted to talk about a couple of things that Gameloft has said in their most recent dev chat that hasn't been covered yet in stuff about the new update, which I have made videos about. Gameloft had experimented with some new kinds of races, kind of being more like real races with pit stops and stuff like that, but they decided to at least scrap it for a while at least, because they weren't really happy with the design. Also, they were hoping to launch a new track this update, but the team that had been working on it is based in Ukraine, and you guys know the situation over there, so they had to push the track forward to a different update. There will also be a brand-focused season coming in the not-too-distant future. We haven't had very many, if any of those in the past, so I'm really curious to know which one they would choose. They said it wouldn't be Code Nixegg because they didn't have enough cars, I guess, especially different cars, so I'm assuming it'll be a car brand that has a large selection of cars in it. It'll be interesting whether it'll be like a supercar company or a more regular car company. We will see, I guess. We shouldn't have to wait, I guess, too long on that one. Here, Skipper narrowly lost to a 570S, but did beat an Apollo N. And now for our final race in the video, we're going to be on Auckland. There were 6 different tracks in this video. Typically, I like to showcase as many different tracks in my reviews as possible, because if all my races were on the same couple of tracks, that wouldn't really say much about the car's performance as a whole. So I like seeing how it does on some longer and straighter ones, like Himalayas in the last race, for example, and maybe some shorter and twistier ones like Auckland here. And we can see that the McLaren GT does pretty well against the board across B-Class cars, and I'm sure you could get to Platinum League in this car too. I mean, if I got to Platinum League in a TVR Griffith, you could definitely do it in a GT. Much easier to drive than that one. Possibly only on Windows though. I do know that the other platforms are much harder to go up in leagues than on Windows. Well, I guess that leads us into my general review about this car. It's a great car overall, one of the best in C-Class, kind of a new co-king along with the Gallardo. Very similar to the Gallardo in terms of performance, and that was an interesting knockdown right there. Slightly worse top speed, handling, drifting, and nitro, but the much better acceleration kind of makes up for that and makes things even. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt, Forza, Minecraft, and other games content, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!